How to make pane gradients Minecraft. Will anyone actually search for that? Whatever. There's no tutorial out there for it anyway, so I might as well make one. So, glass panes. Glass panes are pretty cool because they come in all 16 colors and they change their shape depending on whether they connected to other glass panes or not. This means that we can use the glass panes to make color gradients in things that would look very weird if they were made out of full blocks like smoke or fire. So what we're gonna be doing today is we'll be making two pane gradients together and I kinda show you how to make them. So one's gonna be smoke, the other one's gonna be fire. Obviously there's other ways to use pane gradients, it's just that these ones seem to be the most intuitive and the ones you probably use the most. So yeah, let's get going. So the very first thing you want to do is actually get your gradient sorted in your inventory. So since we're doing smoke, we're gonna go from black to gray to light gray to white. So you gotta get that ready and kind of have them set up over there. So you're gonna have to surround the chimney that it's coming out of with the panes. You don't need to do it all the way around. Something like this should do for every chimney hole for a start. So just gonna place them in like that. And then you start bringing it out, so the color transition is going to happen later. For now you can basically just spam and kind of bring it out a little bit. So you're gonna notice these little squares happening. You can't really avoid them at all, but if you feel like there's too many of them, you can just kind of remove a few. But you're gonna have to deal with it, it's just a part of working with glass panes, these squares. So over here we already have a decent amount of black, so now we're going to be transitioning to gray and starting to use that and kind of bringing it out. Again, if this looks bad, it's okay because you're building, you have all the time in the world to go back to it and kind of look at it and fix it. So just gonna keep doing it and eventually get all the way to white. Once you've reached the end, you want to bring out a few of the glass panes, a certain distance, just something like that, and then detach them, so it looks like there's little particles flowing about. This kind of helps to get across the very gas nature, I guess, of the smoke, because it's not a solid. So to help it not look like a solid piece of smoke that's coming out of that chimney, you want to kind of bring out a few of these bits in the end as if it's dissipating into the air. Don't overdo it, something about this much should be fine. These are even a little bit too spread out, so maybe something like this would work a lot better. And if we get rid of a few of the more further outlying ones, there we go. This should do. And yeah, that part is optional, if you think it looks better without it, then don't do it. Now that you have your main smoke pillar done, you want to kind of smooth out the transition between the colors, because this is meant to be a gradient, not like a hard transition between the colors. But if you look at this looks very obvious, you can see that it's two different colors. So what you want to do is you want to take the bottom color and then kind of replace a few of the paints with it in the next color. So like this, and like that. And then you want to take the other color and just mix it in here. It's the same thing, just the other way. So something like this maybe. And then the transition is a lot smoother, and you do it for every color transition, and that's gonna look a lot better than if you just left it at that. And there we go, now we have smoke coming out of the chimney. So if we just look at the house from a little bit more of a distance, yeah, that looks really nice. Now, of course, you could just use cobwebs, and I think it's a lot easier to do it that way. But if you really want to put in the effort, then that's probably a better solution than the cobwebs. I gotta say though, if you're going to do this in survival, prepare to put in the hours, because the amount of dirt and scaffolding you'll need to put in to make that and then to detail it is going to be quite a lot. So it's a bit of a frustrating project to work on in survival, but if you have the dedication, then I think it's going to very much pay off, because cobwebs are nice, but this is a lot better. Okay, so we're moving on to the fire. Now this one is a lot harder to get right than the smoke, but if you need to make a big fire, just putting a pile of campfires or lighting a bunch of blocks on fire isn't going to work. So if you want to make a fire that's any bigger than a 5x5, then you'll probably be better off using glass panes than anything else. Although you can add in a few campfires in the ground later for the sound effects. Either way, you want to start off with a little bit of a base, just so you have something to build things off of. For now we're going to cover the whole area, but later we're going to take out some of the corners to make it look a little bit less square. Then you want to raise it by a couple of blocks because you want to make it big. So if the first color only takes up 1 block in height, then it's not going to look great. So just kind of spread it around, and then you can have a little bit of it like coming out as well, because if we just contain it within these 5 blocks, then it probably won't look as good. So yeah, just gonna have little bits sticking out, maybe like that. Nope, like that. Now before we start transitioning to orange, we gotta make this look a little bit less square, and one of the ways to do it is if you have 2 blocks here, then you take out the bottom one, and then it looks a lot less square. So overall, it's just kind of eyeballing it, whatever looks better, a lot of trial and error, because these are kind of hard to get right, especially on such a small scale, because this is the smallest that it's feasible to make a fire. Smaller than that, and you might as well just light a bunch of blocks on fire and call it good. So anyway, just gonna place a few more in, and now we're going to be adding the orange. Now, as you can see, this isn't even. Like, you can see that there's lower areas and taller areas. But the orange needs to go in the lower areas first, but then you also put it in the taller areas. And the reason for that is that then it has like a little bit of a curving shape, and the transition isn't flat, which is what we want, because that looks better. You can also dig a few holes in there and just plonk an orange paint down, just for a little bit of interest. This wouldn't really look like a fire if you didn't have like these little flames coming out, so we're gonna start doing them. But they're really more intended for the yellow. Yellow is the brightest color on the gradient, so we want to put it at the very top here, more so than in the smoke, because in the smoke you have a significant white bit. But here the yellow is only going to be on the very edges, because that's how fire looks usually. Now that we have all of the flames coming out, it's time to start adding the yellow. Now use it sparingly, like don't overdo it, because it is really bright in this game for some reason, so just kind of add it in little bits on the edges, like that. And then you also add a few floaty yellow parts, because obviously if it's floating it looks like little like bits of fire that are coming out. I don't know what they're called, but if there's a large campfire, you have these like glowy bits that are flying out into the sky. Well, you want to make a bunch of those, because then it's actually going to look like a fire, not like a pile of glass panes, which is what it kind of is now, sadly. Yeah, so just kind of add a bunch of them. Don't forget the areas where you don't have many of these flames. You still want to add some yellow, otherwise it looks weird. So something like this could probably work pretty well. Another yellow in here. Nope, that connects it too much, so I guess the yellow in here. Here, good. Yeah, so from here it's basically done, but it's never actually done, because there's always going to be something that you notice and you want to fix. So now it's just about doing that and not overdoing that, because then it would take hours. So after a bunch of doing that, you want to add in some finishing touches, and one of my favorite ones is adding campfires in the ground for the sound effects. So if you just kind of remove this and then replace it, and listen closely. So yeah, that's what it does. It can also add some smoke sometimes. Sometimes it won't come out, like here you can barely see it. But over on this side, it's coming out all the way and looks pretty cool. Like there's some embers down there that are still bringing out smoke, even though the rest of the fire is still going in the middle. It's pretty cool. Now obviously those aren't the only paint gradients you can do. There's a lot of other options as well, like this one, which is purple, magenta, pink. This one, which is light blue and blue, or green to lime. You can do a whole lot of other stuff with this, like this could work for Halloween or something. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Let me know if you have any other building things that you want me to talk about and kind of show how to do. Stuff that isn't like been already done a million times, stuff that there isn't a tutorial about or something like that. Anyway, yeah, that's gonna be it for this one, so see you later.